With the first scrimmage in the books for the Alabama Crimson Tide, there is a lot for us to talk about. Whether that's Bryce Young continuing to impress, a running back that I talked about not long ago really showing out, a ferocious defense, or some young wide receivers that could look to contribute. We've got a lot to break down, but before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all. Hop down in the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you believe we will see some of these freshman wide receiver contribute outside of Ajayi Hall? And then let me know which ones you think we'll see. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content, and you don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoy that content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions are massive to content creators such as myself. But with all that being said, let's talk about the scrimmage. And first and foremost, let's kick it off with the quote that I think grabbed everybody's attention. And that was Saban praising Bryce Young, but saying that he's looking for the offense outside of Bryce Young to step up. Now, I have a few different interpretations of this, and I'm not concerned at all. And the first reason I'm not concerned in my first interpretation, it was reported that multiple offensive linemen were out, and Chris Randolph got nicked up during the scrimmage. He had a slight ankle injury that he could have came back in reportedly, but why would you have him come back in? Let him get healthy, and it's a great time to give some of these very talented freshman tackles some really good reps. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, you're looking at an offensive line that was playing in a scrimmage against a ferocious defensive front. Saban commented that the defensive line right now has a 9-deep rotation, which is unbelievable. And then you're looking at Chris Allen, the Terminator, Chris Braswell, Trey Sanders, not to mention those ferocious linebacking core. To'o, Harris, Moody, however you slice it, this front for the Crimson Tide is elite, and it is going to be a problem. And make no mistake about it, every team that plays the Alabama Crimson Tide this year, or is looking to at least make the playoffs and may meet Alabama, is already looking at that pass rush, and they're trying to figure out a way how they can contain it. It is that elite. I think Will Anderson is in for a monstrous year. But because of that, I'm not overly concerned about Saban's comments. I hope that it absolutely shores itself up. But when you're looking at a unit that was already down some guys going up against that ferocious front, I think it's very understandable. I think a front that was completely healthy is going to really struggle with that defensive front for Alabama, so I'm not surprised when the Alabama offensive line that's still looking for their complete starting unit that was absent some guys is struggling with a ferocious defensive front. And my third and final takeaway is actually revolving around Bryce Young, because the fact that he was praised and then Saban went on to say that the guys outside of him need to step up, I wasn't there, so this is purely my interpretation. To me, that sounds like Bryce Young is still displaying elite playmaking ability when the play breaks down, and that's something we saw not only in his high school tape, but also in A-Day. When the play broke down, Bryce Young wasn't running to run the football. He was running to spring open passing lanes. And this is an athletic kid. If he runs, I mean, he'll get some yards. He is a very athletic individual. But typically, he doesn't run for the sake of running. He's trying to spring open some passing lanes, which really bleeds me into the next thing. And talking about a running back that had a connection with Bryce Young through the air, Trey Sanders. And the reason why I think it's so important when I hear Saban saying the other individuals outside Bryce Young need to step up, and I interpret that as, hey, if the play's breaking down, Bryce is still showing elite playmaking ability. He's getting his. To me, that's big because if you pair that with an elite running back out the backfield that can catch the ball and elite tight end play, which ding, 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 Alabama has both this year, you are in for a long night if you're the defensive coordinator and how to slow that down. And that isn't even to talk about the talented wide receivers that you also have to figure out. But just in a playmaking quarterback, elite tight end play, and a dynamic running back, you can keep a defense really off balance. And Trey Sanders reportedly caught a touchdown pass from Bryce Young. Now, this is music to my ears for a huge reason. I have been curious as to who would step up and fill the gap left by Najee Harris in his role in the passing game. Najee offered so much fluidity to this offense. Y'all have heard me say it before. I'm not going to delve into it again because I've talked about it so much and how important Najee Harris was to last year's offense. But I've been very curious as to who would fill that role in the passing game. So hearing Trey Sanders come back rehabbing from his injury, to hear that he is not only balling out, but he looks to be a legit threat in the passing game is music to my ears, and we should look for him to contribute in a massive way if that continues. The ability for a running back, as dynamic as he is, make no mistake, go back and watch his film, as dynamic as he is, to be that effective out the passing game, music to my ears. I cannot wait to see more of that. But I want to talk about the tight ends because, as I said, elite tight end play, elite running back play, you can really hurt a defense. Bryce Young also had a connection with Cameron Latou for a touchdown, and Cameron Latou showed an A-Day. He is unbelievably athletic, a guy who I am really excited to see because he's such an intriguing story heading into this year. He's someone I think Tide fans as a whole are really interested in watching play this year, and I think we could see some two tight end personnel because not only does Alabama have Cameron Latou, who he in and of himself should be exciting enough, Alabama doubles down with Jaleel Billingsley, who's one of the biggest mismatches at the tight end position in the nation. This kid can slide out and play wide receiver. He can keep a defense off balance. I'm really interested to see how both of those guys are going to be utilized this year because I think in between the running backs out the backfield, the running backs in general, just the ability to run the ball traditionally, they have so many talented guys there. I've talked about I think it's the best unit in the nation. I cannot wait to see how the tight ends are utilized. Jaleel Billingsley, such an athletic freak, and Cameron Latou has been such an enjoyable storyline to continue hearing about. I can't wait for the season to get here so I can continue to watch them progress. But an area I talked about in the intro that I really want to talk about now, these young wide receivers for Alabama. On A-Day, we got to see Ajayi Hall, and we got to see the type of ability he has, and my goodness, everybody in college football was watching thinking Alabama has got another elite receiver in the waiting. It's just a matter of when he pieces it all together because that transition is tough coming from high school to college. I don't think we talk about it enough, just how challenging it is. But now we are hearing that Nick Saban has employed a few of these other freshman wide receiver in a punt return capacity, seeing who can field the best. Whether that be Ja'Cory Brooks, JoJo Earle, or Christian Leary, I want to talk about each of these individuals, and we'll start with Ja'Cory Brooks because he's an individual I've been asked about here on this channel. I think it was very unfortunate we didn't get to see him in A-Day. Remember, the Crimson Tide signed 4 of the nation's top 10 wide receivers in last year's cycle, and as talented as Ajayi Hall, JoJo Earle, and Christian Leary are, it was Ja'Cory Brooks who was the 5-star receiver for Alabama per 24/7 Sports. So he's an individual I'm very excited to see. A big body wide receiver coming from IMG, which is an absolute pipeline to Alabama at this point, My interest is really peaked for Ja'Cory Brooks. Hearing that he's on punt return only adds to my excitement because it shows he's an explosive player, but he is not alone. OGs of this channel will know I am incredibly high on JoJo Earle. I got to watch him play multiple times in high school. I got to watch him play in a very tough playoff game and then the state championship. And I can promise you, the defense knew where JoJo Earle was. They couldn't stop him. This kid has elite change of direction and burst. His ability to make a play when he gets the ball in his hands is going to be awe-inspiring, something I really can't wait to watch. And now you couple that change of direction, that burst, with the Alabama sports science crew. I mean, sky's the limit for JoJo Earle. Hearing he's on punt return right now isn't super surprising to me, or at least that he's being looked at isn't super surprising. And then we talk about Christian Leary. I mean, this blazing speedster. This kid has got speed for days, and if he gets the ball and you give him an inch, he's absolutely gone. And JoJo Earle and Leary are interesting because they're going to be competing with Slade Bolden for this time at that slot wide receiver position. Slade, a talented wide receiver, very proficient against zone, but can he hold off JoJo Earle and Christian Leary? I don't know the answer to that, but the fact that Bryce Young already connected with JoJo Earle for a touchdown pass in this scrimmage shows that JoJo Earle is already showing some of his ability, something we're going to have to keep an eye on. But the last thing I want to talk about and end this with is the defense. We've talked about the defensive front and what a defensive front you have. Whether you look at Will Anderson, Chris Allen, Trey Sanders, Chris Braswell, the edge rusher position is loaded enough. But then you look at the defensive front, we're hoping LeBron Ray gets back healthy because if he gets back healthy and you can add him into that rotation, goodness me. But then you have the middle linebackers who are unbelievably talented. And that's not even to talk about the defensive back room. With Josh Jobe looking to have a really big year, Jalen Armour-Davis holding it down, but he's got some true freshmen breathing down his neck in Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold. Kool-Aid has been praised since he got to campus. He is an incredibly talented individual. We got to see him compete in A-Day, and the moment was absolutely not too big for him. He made play after play after play, and Terrion Arnold has been pegged by Nick Saban. Saban talked about how he loves his tenacity and loves his work ethic, which as an Alabama fan is awesome to hear. And I think there is a situation where we're going to see both these young men play in this secondary. And that is insane to think about. This secondary already features Jobe, who is a really solid corner. Jalen Armour-Davis, who though he hasn't gotten to show it, remember, this is an individual who has received a lot of praise from the staff in the past. Just injuries have derailed him up to this point. But if he can put together something healthy, I think he's a very intriguing athlete. But the fact that you already have those two guys, a Malachi Moore, a Brian Branch, Chris Helms, and then Jordan Battle, the fact that we're even sitting here talking about two true freshmen maybe cracking a rotation is showing just how special those young men are. The future of the DB room for the Crimson Tide is incredibly bright, something I cannot wait to see. I can't wait to continue hearing how Alabama progresses, and the season cannot get here quick enough. I'm very interested in y'all for a few things. First and foremost, which of these young wide receivers do you think we're going to see outside of Ajayi Hall, or do you think we'll see them? And then secondly, let me know what you think about Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry. Do you believe they will be cracking the rotation for the Alabama secondary this year? That is an incredibly tough secondary already, but this defense, man, when you look at it from top to bottom, what a unit. And it is only even more encouraging to hear that Bryce Young is out there making plays and that this offense has got a ton of potential. I cannot wait to see what Trey Sanders does. What a good storyline to have there, and I can't wait to hear from y'all. That's it. See ya.